Rome's favorite word, until you do it long enough.
All right. Hey, good morning, everybody.
It's time for you to dream again.
I hope everybody
Let's
is
start
doing
dreaming.
amazing.
We're fighting this
Down.
world.
Welcome to October 15th, I think it is. Is it the 15th? Yep. We are in the brain, chapter 13, part 2 of Think and Grow Rich. Exciting times here at Rocky Creek Ranch. Gold keeps hitting all-time new highs. That's kind of amazing. $4,180. They say it'll be 5,000 before the end of the year. I think it'll be 5,000 before, a little before then. Anyways, so let's keep going. Where'd my marker go? There you are. So chapter 12, we're down here at the bottom. The greatest forces of the intangible. This is a recap we talked about yesterday. What can we do to improve our faculty of creative imagination? Operation of your mental broadcasting station is a comparatively simple procedure. You have but 3 principles to bear in mind to apply when you wish to use your broadcasting station. 1, the subconscious mind. 2, the creative imagination. And 3, auto-suggestion. The stimuli through which you put these 3 principles into action may be described in the procedure that begins with desire. So the greatest forces are intangible. The Great Depression brought the world to the very borderline of understanding the forces which are intangible and unseen. Through the ages which have passed, man has depended too much upon his physical senses and has limited his knowledge to physical things which he could see, touch, weigh, and measure. We're now entering the most marvelous of all ages, an age which will teach us something of the intangible forces of the world. We are now entering the most marvelous of all ages, an age which will teach us something of the intangible forces of the world about us. Perhaps we shall pass through this age, that the other self is more, as we pass through this age, that the other self is more powerful than the physical self we see when we look in the mirror. The other self is the imagination, is the thinking self. Sometimes men speak lightly of intangibles, speak lightly of the intangible, the things which they cannot perceive through any of their 5 senses. And when we hear them, it should remind us that all of us are controlled by the forces which are unseen and intangible. Good morning, Dublin. Good morning, buddy. The whole of mankind, so that's italicized, that all of us are controlled by forces which are unseen and intangible. The whole of mankind has not the power to cope with nor control the intangible force wrapped up in the rolling waves of the ocean. Man has not the capacity to understand the intangible force of gravity, which keeps this little earth suspended in midair and keeps man from falling off of it, much less the power to control that force. Man is entirely subservient to the intangible force which comes with the thunderstorm, and he is just as helpless in the presence of the intangible force of electricity. Nay, he does not even know what electricity is, where it comes from, or what its purpose is. Nor is this by any means the end of man's ignorance in connection with things unseen or intangible. He does not understand the intangible force and intelligence wrapped up in the soil of the earth, the force which provides him with every morsel of food he eats, every article of clothing he wears, and every dollar he carries in his pocket. The dramatic story of the brain. Last but not least, man with all of his boasted culture and education, understands little or nothing of the intangible force, the greatest of all of the intangibles, of thought. He knows but little concerning the physical brain and its vast network of intricate machinery through which the power of thought is translated into its material equivalent. Yet he is now entering an age which shall yield enlightenment on this subject. Already men of science have begun to turn their attention to the study of the stupendous thing called the brain, and while they are still in the kindergarten stages of their studies, they have uncovered enough knowledge to know that the central switchboard of the human brain, the number of lines which connect the brain cells with one another, equal a figure 1 followed by 15 million ciphers. The figure is so stupendous that Dr. C. Judson Hendrick of the University of Chicago, that astronomical figures dealing with hundreds of millions of light years become insignificant in comparison. It has been determined that there are 10 quadrillion, 100,000 million, 10 million to 14 million nerve cells in the human cerebral cortex. And we know that these are arranged in definite patterns. That's 100,000, yeah, million. These arrangements are not haphazard, they are orderly. Recently developed methods of electrophysiology draw off action currents from very precisely located cells or fibers with microelectrodes, amplify them with radio tubes to record potential differences to a millionth of a volt. It's inconceivable that such a network of intricate machinery should be in existence for the sole purpose of carrying the physical functions incidental to growth and maintenance of the physical body. It is not likely that the same system which gives billions of brain cells the media for communication with one another provides also a means of communication with other intangible forces. After this book has been written, just before the manuscript went to the publisher, there appeared in the New York Times an editorial showing that at least one great university and one intelligent investigator in the field of mental phenomena are carrying out the organized research through which the conclusions have been reached that parallel many of those described in the following chapter. The editorial briefly analyzed the work carried by Dr. Rhine and his associate at Duke University vis-a-vis what is telepathy. A month ago, we cited on this page some of the remarkable results achieved by Professor Rhine and his associates at Duke University for more than 100,000 tests to determine the existence of telepathy or clairvoyance. The results were summarized in the first two articles of Harper's Magazine, and in the second one, which has now appeared, the author E.H. Wright attempts to summarize what has been learned, or what it seems reasonable to infer regarding the exact nature of the extrasensory modes of perception. The actual existence of telepathy and clairvoyance now seems to some scientists enormously probable as a result of Rhine's experiments. Various participants were asked to name as many cards in a special pack as they could without looking at them, without other sensory access to them. About a score of men, score is about 100, about a score of men and women were discovered who could regularly name so many of the cards correctly that there was not one chance in many of a million of their having done their feats by luck or accident. But how did they do them? These powers, assuming that they exist, do not seem to be sensory. They are known. There's no known organ for them. The experiments work just as well at distances at several hundred miles as they did in the same room. These facts also depose, in Mr. Wright's opinion, of the attempt to explain telepathy or clairvoyance through the physical theory of radiation. All known forms of radiant energy decline inversely as the square of the distance is traversed. Telepathy and clairvoyance do not. Right? Sound, you yell. What they're saying is that it declines the square of the distance that you're walking away. So as you walk away, it gets half as loud as you double the distance, right? But they do vary through physical causes other than mental powers do. Contrary to widespread opinion, they do not improve when the there must be a misspelling. The participant is asleep or half asleep. Yet, on the contrary, when he was most wide awake and alert. Rhine discovered that a narcotic will invariably lower the participants, I guess the perception, the one with perceptions. So, yeah, we'll keep going on. The percipient score, while a stimulant, will always send it higher. The most reliable performer apparently cannot make good scores unless he tries to do his best. One conclusion that Wright draws from the conference is telepathy and clairvoyance are really one and the same gift. That is the faculty that sees a card face down on a table to be exactly the same as one that reads a thought residing in another's mind. There are several grounds for believing this. So far, for example, the two gifts have been found in every person who enjoys either of them. So if you have telepathy, you can also have clairvoyance. In everyone so far, the two have been of equal vigor, almost exactly. Screens, walls, distances have no effect at all on either. Wright advances from this conclusion to express what he puts forward as no more than the mere hunch that other extrasensory experiences, prophetic dreams, premonitions of disaster, and the like may also prove to be a part of the same faculty. The reader is not asked, meaning us, the readers, are not asked to accept any of these conclusions unless he finds it necessary. Yet the evidence that Ryan has piled up must remain impressive. In view of Dr. Ryan's announcement in connection with the conditions under which the mind responds to what he terms extrasensory modes of perception, I now feel privileged to add to his testimony by stating that my associates and I have discovered what I believe to be the ideal conditions under which the mind can be stimulated so that the sixth sense described in the next chapter can be made to function in a practical way. The conditions to which I refer consist of a close working alliance between myself and two members of my staff. Through experimentation and practice, we have discovered how to stimulate the minds by applying the principle used in connection with the invisible counselors described in the next chapter, so that we can, by process of blending our three minds into one, find the solution to the great variety of personal problems which are submitted by my clients. The procedure is very simple. We sit down at a conference table, clearly state the nature of the problem we have under consideration, then begin discussing it. Sounds like a mastermind. Each contributes whatever thoughts that may occur. The strange thing about the method of mind stimulation is that it places each participant in communication with unknown sources of knowledge definitely outside of his own experience. If you understand the principle described in the chapter on the mastermind, you of course recognize the round table procedure here described as being the practical application of the mastermind. The method of mind stimulation through harmonious discussion of definite subjects between people illustrates the simplest and most practical use of the mastermind. This is in italicized writing, this part. By adopting and following a similar plan, any student of this philosophy may come into the possession of the famous Carnegie formula, briefly described in the introduction. If it means nothing to you at this time, mark this page and read it again after you have finished the last chapter. The Depression was a blessing in disguise. It reduced the whole world to a new starting point and gives everyone a new opportunity. That is the end of chapter 13. Next will be chapter 14, The Sixth Sense, the 13th step towards riches. And I only thought there was a lot of underlined in the previous chapter. Questions, comments, thoughts, takeaways, take with yous on the brain and understanding that you have access to clairvoyance and telepathy as you see fit. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Zelka.
How are you this morning?
Outstanding.
Oh, that's awesome. I wanted to ask if you could explain further how the telepathy works.
Telepathy is the ability to read someone's mind.
Yes. So how can you do that?
And the way to do that is to practice it. It's not unlike any other muscle in the body, even though there is no organ associated with telepathy or clairvoyance. You ever sit behind a car at a traffic light and say, something flashes in your mind going, they're going to turn right. You're like, I knew that. Or you say green and the light turns green. Just, I knew that. It's little things like that. So when you're sitting with somebody and having a conversation with a prospect and you start to feel these little things, what happens is that our ego gets in the way and we start to, what's the word I'm looking for? We start to push our own energies into them instead of reading their energies. If you've ever felt somebody scared, you're like, you seem a little nervous. That's literally, you're looking at it, but you're also feeling that energy, right? They may do something. There may be micro expressions that they have that cause you to see or feel different things. If you've ever called somebody on the phone, they said, I was just thinking about you. That's clairvoyance. It's moments like that. If you start to act on those impulses, when you act on those impulses, the owner of Send Out Cards, I forget his name, calls them promptings. When you start to act on those promptings, you can build that muscle. So that's what you do, is you pay attention to these little subtle feelings that come into your body, come into your mind, come into your awareness, people that you think about. Usually if we start if I'm sitting with somebody and we start talking about somebody, I say, let's call them. They're like, now we're talking about them, something, for some reason we're supposed to be in communication with them because the two of us thought of them and brought it up and started thinking about that. So we need to bring them into the conversation. And usually 9 times out of 10, it's usually something pretty spot on that we did need to communicate with them at that moment. So that's how you build that up. You have excellent telepathy and clairvoyance with your kids. That's a mom's gift to begin with.
So
yeah.
can they be used interchangeably?
Yeah, they're both one and the same, clairvoyance and telepathy. To be
So
able to
why
see,
do they have two different names?
because one is telepathy is to read your mind, clairvoyance is to see what's going to happen. My interpretation of it, my definitions of it. Clairvoyance is to see. Clairvoyance, when they talk about where something bad's about to happen, something good's about to happen, something is about to shift, change, that is outside of somebody else's mind. Clairvoyance is to be in communication with the universe, and telepathy is to usually be in communication with the mind of someone else. or what an animal is going to do or show up.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yep.
I can often tell that. I mean, to me, it's little things that when people shift, I see that when people tell you they're gonna sign up, and I see how it follows a pattern. Um, and then they don't follow through. And I'm like, they're not going to follow through, but other people don't seem to notice it. They think when somebody says, oh, if somebody's ready, oh, I'm going to sign up right now. And then they come up with all kinds of other things. Oh, I'm too tired. I'm going to sign up tomorrow, right? And a lot of people believe that this person says that what they say is really true, but I see that it's not. It's just an excuse to get out
Well,
of the place they are.
there's a subtle significant difference between being clairvoyant and telepathy and causing an action in the universe. Telepathy doesn't cause it, you simply read it. Clairvoyance doesn't cause it, it simply reads it. There is a possibility that, thinking makes it so. Good things or bad things, we can actually pull from the universe because it's only delivering on a thought process. So seeing that somebody isn't going to sign up isn't necessarily being telepathic or clairvoyant. It
So what is
could
it?
be, but it's based upon our frequency. If your frequency is that, well, they're not going to do it, there's a good chance they won't do it. But if your frequency is, I hope they pick the best solution for them, what's the best solution they're looking for? It's that little, this is what Wallace D. Wattles would say. It's not about doing certain things. It's about doing things in a certain way. So it could very well be. You have to ask yourself the question, the next time somebody says they're going to sign up, what if you showed up and said, that's exciting. I can't wait for the moment that they do that. It will be such a powerful moment. And see what comes about when you're in that frequency. And to test if it's clairvoyance or if it's actually law of attraction.
Well, that's adding another level, right?
Sure, yeah. And that's what it's all about, frequency. It's all about the finest tuning of frequency. What do you want exactly? So law of attraction is, what do you want to attract to you? So you could be attracting things and you go, well, I knew that. Well, not necessarily knew it. Maybe you brought it upon yourself, right? And again, this is where you have to take time to understand the absolute subtleness, the absolute intricacy between law of attraction or being able to see things, clairvoyance or telepathy. When you read somebody's mind, that's not law of attraction. When you get a signal to I need to call Mason, or I need to call my daughter, or I need to call, or this, that, or the other, right? I need to check on the dog, and the dog has got their head stuck in the gate trying to get between the rooms. That's clairvoyance. That's not law of attraction. That's telepathy. That's not law of attraction. The dog, I don't know, you want your kid to come home and they come home. That's not clairvoyance or telepathy. That's law of attraction.
Yeah, well, those are two totally different things then.
Yep.
But we're talking about telepathy.
So telepathy is somebody's wanting to find a business, and you happen to bump into them. You have telepathy is more of a you won't believe it moment. I was talking to this person, and all of a sudden I got this feeling to say hello to them, and we struck up this conversation, and they're joining me in business. Right? Law of attraction, but telepathy says that you picked up on it. Telepathy gives you that ability to act on some of the things that your law of attraction is trying to signal you to say, do this, do that, do this. And then all of a sudden you come across these things and you're like, well, I got a feeling that that's the right person. Law of attraction says, I want to grow my business. Telepathy says, I want to communicate with people who are ready and excited and willing and able to begin my business. and you start to pick up on the frequency.
Interesting. Very interesting. And you use that all the time?
I pretty much all day long.
And have you?
I'll get an insight. I'll get an insight that little Miss Anura, who seems to be electric fence proof, I'll go out, walk outside my office, and I'll look for her, and she'll be walking outside the fence, just eating acorns or eating grass somewhere. I'm like, Anura, I'll put her in. I filmed her yesterday. I put her in, and she went right back out into the fence. I'm like, ugh. So I have to put up barbed wire now.
How can she get out? I mean,
because she just evidently they don't feel the shock. They feel the shock on their nose from the electric fence, but evidently they don't feel the shock on their wool. Is what I'm guessing. So we now have to.
But the other sheep don't get out. It's only her.
Well, yeah, because once they know they can get out, they just keep getting out.
And the others haven't figured out.
No. Now, Teddy has, and he'll just walk through the fence. He puts his horns underneath the fence and just walks out. So now we have to put up more structured wire.
Oh, wow.
In between the barbed wire, in between the hot wire. So
would you ever thought that the sheep is that smart, right?
I'm guessing smart is one way. Stubborn is another term that I might use.
Well, they don't like to be kept in one place, I guess. I mean,
right. So we'll see. We'll see.
maybe you could just let them roam the ranch.
Well, we could, but the challenge is that there's like 4 homes being constructed down in the development down south at the end of the road towards the lake, and there's 20-30 contractors. Well, my camera out at the driveway down at the road in a 4-hour period had 120 hits. So that's at least 60 cars if everybody came in and left.
Wow, it's getting busy there.
Yeah, it's very busy. So I don't want them. We actually bought signs to put up said slow sheep crossing.
Do people even believe that? I think it's just a joke.
Well, they slow down and see them. So we'll see.
Because we see it with the horses. It says horse crossing.
Right.
We have that here a lot. But yeah, that's funny. Animals are very smart creatures. I watched a horse and how they are able to figure out to do things for themselves, where lots of people go, "Oh, I can't do that," but animals will do it.
Well, they don't have the same stories of their parents telling them they're not good enough, or that somebody said that they can't do it.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, I think since we're talking about the brain, that's exactly it. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I will work on my telepathy.
Anyone else? Thoughts, comments, questions, takeaways, take with yous? Next week, we'll be on day 2 of the DMP. If you're on the emails, if you've registered for it, I think Ria sent out an email yesterday to those registered, and you'll start getting access to certain things. There'll be a workbook for each day, and I'm going to send out the teaser workbook for day 1, which is about decision versus drifting. So kind of cool. I'm excited. Anyone else? Thoughts, comments, questions? If you need to register for it, you can go to SeanGMurphy.com/DMP 2025, and you can get signed up. Next week, Tuesday through Saturday, 11:30 to 1. And then if you're part of the VIP, then there'll be some Q&A sessions as well, to be determined, to be shared. Okay. Well, there you go. I hope everybody has an amazing, extraordinary day. I hope your morning surprises you with even more of joy and happiness in your life and light. And I'll see y'all where?
At the next
At
event.
the next event. I loved your Thanksgiving pictures, Diane. And somebody give me some Costa Ricas.
Pura vida.
Pura vida. We love you, Mark. And some Lydias.
Peace be with
Be
us
with
all.
us.
Be with us all. And the queen of helping you get your brain organized, Jessie Lee Ward.
Boss
Boss
Lee.
Lee.
Boss Lee. We love you, girl. And a little white fluffy.
Gurgly,
Gurgly,
gurgly.
gurgly.
Gurgly. We love you, girl. All right, everybody. I hope you have some fun today. And we'll see you all tomorrow morning. Thanks, everybody. Bye for